Okay, so hi everybody.
Hi everybody.
Why do you sound so gruff? I'll move this over here. Hello, are you still there?
Yes, sorry.
Why do you sound so gruff?
I don't sound so gruff.
You said hi everybody.
Hi everybody.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Are you going to introduce yourselves?
Oh yeah, so I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married. Are we still going to do that? Okay.
To each other, just in case anyone was curious.
Oh yeah, to each other. That's a good
Right,
point.
I
We
mean,
never have said that.
We really, I assumed that people assumed, but you never know.
Yeah. So, this is a knitting podcast. What?
Nothing, I'm sorry. I'm having yarn management issues.
Oh, and cat management
And
issues.
cat, yes, I know. They often go hand in hand.
If you hear the bell ringing, that means Linus has come to visit.
Right.
Junior, the other cat, won't. Refuses to wear a collar because he's better than that.
Well, yeah. Linus is kind of our Hufflepuff kitten.
Oh, he's a Hufflepuff.
He is very much a Hufflepuff.
So anyway, I'm Scott. I am Sweet Tea No Shade on that's the name of our podcast, but I'm also that on Ravelry and Instagram. And then
I'm John, and I am I Love You, I Know. All one word on Ravelry.
And you don't have Instagram yet.
No, my social media kind of stopped at Facebook. Like Twitter, I don't understand.
Yay, he jumped up, but we didn't even prompt him to. He's come to visit. He's
Hi
like,
there.
Oh, girl, I don't like that tea.
I know.
That's because you shouldn't drink hot tea. You should drink iced tea. Sweet iced tea. So you're I Love You, I Know, all one word on Ravelry.
Yes.
And tell people what you did on Ravelry today.
So, I have all the stuff in my queue, and I finally did a full-on pattern project entry thing. So it was so easy. I typed in the yard, and Ravelry found the yard. I typed in the store, and Ravelry found the store, and it was super fun.
Somebody likes the
Yeah.
what's that called? The
Measuring tape.
Measuring tape.
You can't see him, but he's being very bad right in front of the camera.
He's not being bad. He's not destroyed the tape measure
No.
or lost it under the couch.
Not yet.
So you're slowly starting to not hate knitting as much. And so a couple fun things that have occurred since we last talked to you. I've got my little agenda here, but there was something that I forgot that we did that hopefully you'll remember. But so we went to our first knit night. We'd never been to a knit night before, so that was really, really fun. It's a men's knit night, men's stitch and bitch, men's Minneapolis stitch and bitch, I think is what they call it, at Stephen B, our local yarn store, and we had been at the kickoff event for the Blue Sky Fibers boutique pop-up shop within Stephen B's store, and
We talked about that last podcast,
yeah,
right? Okay.
Yeah, and there was a guy, Mark, who approached us, and we chatted with, and he invited us. And the store employees had invited us before, but I'm sorry, there's a notification on my phone, and it's as I was saying, he had invited us, and people who work at the store had invited us.
And we had been meaning to go for forever.
Yeah, it just had never fit into our schedule. So we decided, come hell or high water, that we were going to go to the knit night, and we had a great time. Everybody was very welcoming. It was a little awkward for me just because you walk into an environment like that where everybody knows each other, or I think everybody knows each other, and they've known each other for years and years and years.
Well, and let's put it this way. Knitting might not attract the most extroverted people in the world.
That's true.
So it wasn't...
That's a sweeping generalization.
It's a generalization, but maybe true.
I don't know. I mean, people were very...
No, people were very friendly, but
outgoing.
no one was like, it wasn't like you had someone like cruise directoring it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people were People were very friendly and very nice, and it was a lot of fun, and we will for sure be back.
Oh, yeah. And it's kind of funny because they had sent out a little survey about how many days a week, or I'm sorry, how many days a week? How many times a month did people want to do the knit night? Because I guess they've been doing it monthly forever, and they were talking about doing it twice a month, and because we're part of the Facebook group, we got asked the question, and I didn't want to be the only one that said, I want to do it twice a month, but so I just said I had no opinion because it's not, I mean, we've been once.
That's what I said too. I was like, as a newcomer, I don't feel like it. But it was really fun because...
but I want to do it twice a month is what I meant to say.
So, and the way they do it is, it's like on a Wednesday night.
Yes.
And so it's past store hours, so we're sitting there and they keep the store... not open, but they let us in the store where they do inventory.
Yeah.
And that's really fun. Yeah. So their staff are running around yelling and calling out like inventory stuff, and we're just sitting there knitting and having a nice time. It was really fun. I'm really glad we went.
Yeah. So we had a great time, and we'll go back. And I definitely felt like most of the people there were way far beyond me in kind of ability level and experience and the difficulty of the projects they were working on, which is I think a good thing. I mean, it makes sense because I've only been knitting for however long, but less than a year. But that's always cool because you can look around and kind of
get ideas and get tips, which I like.
And you know, for me, everything is goal oriented. Everything. So yeah, so that was cool. Yeah. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was the State Fair. Minnesota State Fair is coming up. So that's probably not a big deal to anybody who doesn't live in Minnesota.
I had never heard of it before I moved here. So
yeah, well, it's the second highest attended state fair in the country after Texas. Mm-hmm. And they have like 1 million people come. I mean, it's like somewhere between 150,000 and 250,000 people a day, and it's 10 days.
So during the state fair, the Minnesota State Fair becomes like the third largest city in the United States in Minnesota.
Oh, that's right.
Something like that. Although I don't know, maybe fourth. I don't know if Duluth has.
Yeah.
But
anyway, it's this. They have fairgrounds that have built permanent buildings on them and everything. It's been around since the 1880s, I think.
Sure.
And so that's the reason that's cool is just because it's kind of big in our lives because my family comes every year. And so my brother and his wife and my dad and his wife are coming. And then we go and we spend a whole day there. But it's just fun because it's like, it's a time that we know everybody's going to come and visit, and we have it on our calendars and everything. So that's really fun. And then I was not a knitter when we went previously. Mm-hmm. And so I pulled something off their website, and it says, because they have like I think all state fairs, they have an annual exhibition of the finest needlework, handicrafts, or handcrafts, baking, and canning that Minnesota has to offer. So you have to be a Minnesota resident. They have 2,200 participants exhibiting more than 8,000 items. Now this is not just knitting, this is all creative activities.
Yeah, they have quilting, they have crochet, they have needlepoint. It's really cool.
The woodworking stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
So, there's a special category for needlecraft, which is linens, quilts, rugs, crocheted, and knitted items. And I know that one of the guys in the knit night was working on some crazy colorwork Norwegian
sweater or something
sweater that he was going to
I feel like I heard that I can't remember. He might have gotten a ribbon. I can't remember. We'll have to see.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, does he already know?
Yeah, they give out the prices
ahead of time?
Yeah, before the fair, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I don't know.
The other big thing that's coming up for us is the retreat that we've talked about a few times with Biddy and my mother. Her grand scheme, we had talked about going to Knit City, which is in Vancouver, but I don't know that she'd ever be willing to fly from Georgia to Vancouver, because it's like 1 million-hour flight, and she doesn't like to. If she had her druthers, she'd never fly again. So, which is kind of sucky since we live in Minnesota and she lives in Georgia, but whatever. So, Anyway, so the retreat's coming up. It's called Knitting with Friends. It's hosted by the Fuzzy Goat, which is the name of the store in Thomasville, Georgia, which is the closest store to Mom. It's about an hour drive from where she lives. And it's being hosted it's being held at the Paxton 1884, which is a bed and breakfast. It's a, what's the opposite of antebellum? Postbellum? Or just
not antebellum.
Just nothing. Just not antebellum.
Right.
It's an after the war house
Right.
that was built in 1884, and I'm going to put some information on the screen and in the show notes. But they're having a trunk show there, by Copper Corgi, which
is a great name.
Yeah, and her store is in Savannah, Georgia, and I went on to her Etsy. She has an Etsy shop and a website, and some of the yarn is just beautiful. The color stuff, I'll maybe put some in over top of us talking, but so I'm really excited about that. So Nurse Cody from the Cody Knits podcast is going to be there because my mom bullied him into going, and so it's really exciting to meet him and meet another podcaster and someone who's been knitting and podcasting longer than we have. And I think I just saw on Instagram that he started his new job, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm excited because, it'll just be a weekend of knitting, which sounds delightful.
Yeah, and so, okay, here's a Betty Annism. So I was talking to her on the phone today. Okay, so I never say this stuff to her face, but I wait until I get on the podcast to talk bad about her.
Of course.
So we're on the phone today because I wanted to call her and tell her that I had gotten Britbox. Now, I don't know if you guys... Well, I'm sure not everybody has it because... I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today. There was a person who commented on our podcast from Cyprus.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm just like, wow.
Are they from
the internet is all over the world, y'all.
I know. It's so weird.
So, anyway, I say that to say that I got Britbox, which is a channel on Amazon that allows you to see British TV shows. And so it's kind of like Amazon Prime or Netflix or, one of those services that
just has a lot of Doctor Who.
But it's just all stuff that you can't get in the United States.
Right.
Unless you're doing it illegally, which it's not like I'm I'm not some huge moral person, but I just don't do that. I've done it. I've watched stuff that people give me on thumb drives or whatever.
Right.
I hope the FBI isn't watching this podcast, but I've never really set up the technology to access, and I just there's so much to watch legally that I don't need to do it illegally. But anyway, Britbox has EastEnders, and so I'm bringing this up because if anybody in the UK or anywhere, I guess, watches EastEnders. I used to watch it. My mom got me into it many, many, many years ago, and they show it on our public TV channel, but it's like 10 years ago or something like that. And then we were able to get it online for a little bit, but then they cut that out. And so now through Britbox, I can watch EastEnders, which, if you don't know, is a soap opera from the UK, where it's about the lives of these people that live in the East End of London. Mm-hmm. So it's been on for like 60 years or some crazy length of time. So anyway, I called Mom to tell her that because she told me about Britbox, and so I called her to tell her I'd finally got it all set up and was watching EastEnders.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering where this story was going. That's all. I'm like...
I don't know why people hate my stories.
They don't hate them. They're just kind of...
Well, there's all this fun stuff I want to talk about. I want other people...
meander to the end.
I want other people to talk to me back about them. Like, oh yeah, I love EastEnders. Include like you, but you just sit there and listen. Like, how dare you just sit there and listen and not interrupt me? And
I don't know anything about EastEnders. I just know that...
Whatever, that's not the point of the story. So, I called her and she said, this is the point of the story. She called to tell me that we're taking separate cars to the retreat.
Okay.
So she and Aunt Helen, my aunt who doesn't knit is going on the retreat with us, and we're trying to get her to start knitting. But anyway, which is her sister. Mm-hmm. Aunt Helen is going, and they're riding in her car, and we're driving my mom's new Volkswagen Beetle.
Okay.
So that we can have a car.
That's awesome.
our own car. We're going to be at a knitting retreat
How big
together. And Helen's car holds 4 people. I'm not exactly sure why we need our own car.
In case we want to whoop
She
it
said
up.
in case we wanted to go scoot around while she and Helen were asleep. And I'm thinking, well, we could still take Helen's car, but she's going to get really mad when she watches it.
It's a lovely thought.
It's very sweet. I mean, this stuff is always meant or thought up for the sake of others. It's just... I used to be like, oh no, that's okay, Mom, we don't, but it's just, I don't argue anymore. So, and besides...
I can see the comments auto-populating right now.
There's like 19... I haven't even posted this yet, and I know
right,
she's
already commenting on it.
What was the other thing? Oh, I mean, we were going to take her Beetle anyway, or her new Volkswagen Bug or Beetle or whatever they're called anyway, because, you know, it's a cool car and whatever,
right.
So, anyway. The last thing, now that we're like 20 minutes into this podcast and haven't talked about knitting...
that's what editing's for.
I'm not editing my story out, if that's the implication.
That was the implication, but...
We're going to do our first knit-along.
Yay!
So there was someone who contacted me and wanted to donate a prize, and I think I haven't heard back from him since I gave him my address. I think he might be I think he's traveling or he's in another city or something.
Right.
So I'm not 100% sure if that's going to be the prize or, you know, if we'll just, you know, find something to donate or find something to have as the prize, maybe from Stephen B. or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But we want to do a knit-along regardless. We're going to kick it off in October. We've never done a knit-along, so we're learning. But, I mean, there's so many people who do it.
So I have a silly question about that.
Okay.
Do we set up like a separate Ravelry page for that? Or how do we...
Well, if we remember back to a previous episode...
I don't.
Where I talked about setting up our group for our podcast, and John was like, it's a group where people who like you, it's like your fan page. And I was like, no, it's for knit-alongs. Is this ringing a bell?
I think you hold on to things.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, we set up a page in our group for the knit-along. And there's usually people do 2 different threads. They do one thread for what's called chatter, which is where people just talk about what they're working on for the knit-along. Usually, I'm assuming that's usually more used in a case where everybody's doing the same pattern.
Sure.
And they want to talk about ideas or problems they're having with that pattern.
Right.
Especially with brand new patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a finished objects thread where everybody just goes in and posts a picture of their finished object. And then what you do is you go in and you randomly draw a number. And you go to that post, that numbered post in the group,
and then they get the prize.
They get the prize.
Fun.
Yeah. So, and usually
they can have one of our cats.
Right, that's right. We decided to donate either Linus or Junior.
Linus or Junior, depending on which one.
He just grabbed my pattern.
Which one has made us the most?
Yeah,
the one who's been the most destructive.
Yeah. So.
No. Yeah. They don't. I don't think they would ship well.
No, probably not. Although Linus is so puffy, he wouldn't...
Right, you wouldn't even put, like, packing
in there. You wouldn't have to braid, yeah.
So
anyway, we're going to kick it off on October 1st. We'll be at the retreat, or wrapping up the retreat.
Yes, and remember it's handwear.
Handwear, yes. So I know that some people, not everybody, but some people like to have rules around this. Our dog just came in, which usually means he's looking for someone to take him outside. Hi, Grady.
Well, he just wants to hang out with us.
Okay. So...
he starts screaming at us, we'll take him out.
Yeah. So... It's a handwear knits. Knitted handwear knit-along. So anything. I want to do what?
A handwear knit-along.
Yeah, whatever. So... I want to do, I think they're called the fiddlehead mittens. I think that's what I'm going to do, where you have a really cool patterned top part, and then you have a provisional cast on, and then you knit the inside and something else. And I've decided I'm knitting the inside in that baby alpaca from Blue Sky Fibers.
Wait, so it's a lined glove? Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. So that you can get like a stiff... thick wool that wouldn't necessarily be the most comfortable
and you
against
can
your
line it
skin.
with something really nice. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's a really
sounds like
cool
a lot
pattern.
of work.
Probably is. I don't know. And we're back.
Technical difficulty, sort of.
So we were talking about the knit along, and
yes.
I was saying that some people like to have because there's different ways that you can do it. You can allow works in progress. So like if somebody's working on something on October 1st, does it count? And there's like, do you get more if you do more than one thing in the period of time? Does it count as more? Do you get more than one vote? Vote or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. But you and I need to sit down and figure that out. So that, because otherwise people are going to want to know.
Okay.
So we need to figure that out. All right. So
if anyone has done one of these and has ideas about good rules and stuff like that.
Everybody's done one. And there's rules all over.
Oh my god. I'm trying to, never mind, trying to participate, people to comment and stuff like that. But fine,
I'm a bad person.
You just...
No, No, I'm sorry. It's just that everybody already, like...
Here's the deal.
Everybody, because if you say that, everybody's going to be like, duh, just watch, like, any podcast, and they'll tell you how they do. You know what I mean? Like, it's so ubiquitous.
We're going to edit this part out, because you're being mean to me.
No, I didn't mean to be mean. I just meant, like... Okay, if anybody has any ideas about how they would like for us to do our knit-along, John thinks that you should comment or contact us.
Or if you want to comment about how all I'm doing is being nice and reaching out to people who watch our podcast and you're shutting me down, that'd be awesome too.
I'm sorry, were you done? Were you still talking?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Go. What?
So okay, let's talk.
Oh wait. Well, I'll talk about my pattern later.
Okay. So let's talk about...
I have to get my phone.
I wanted to talk about something else next, but I want to talk about projects so that people don't, like, jump off a bridge. So let's each talk about a project, and then I'll jump back to the thing that I wanted to talk about.
Sounds good.
All right. So in previous episodes, I've talked about wanting to knit my first ankle socks, and this was the saga of the DPNs and starting off with like 10-inch DPNs and blah blah blah. These were the first socks that I did with DPNs, and the first socks that I did with a heel flap and gusset construction, which was super fun. These are ankle socks, the Rose City Rollers pattern. I've got all the details here in just a second. But they're done, and they've been washed, and I wore them. And so here they are. So you can definitely see the heel flap part. And this yarn is not sock yarn, first of all. These are very sturdy socks. I mean, you can... Well, now that they're washed, they don't do it. So it's softened up since I've washed them. But I mean, they can stand up on their own. But I'm okay with that. I mean, they're very warm. They'll be nice to wear in the winter. I actually wore them the other day to work yesterday with jeans and tennis shoes, and they were fine. They were great. So I just really liked the yarn, and I wanted to knit the socks in this yarn. It's a turquoise blue with a yellow. It's a tweed, which I'm not exactly sure what that word means, but it's got little spots in it, which that seems to be what tweed means. Let me put it up close. So it's got yellow. I wonder. We don't have very good light here. Let me. There we go. That's a little better. So you can see there's fluorescent yellow spots for the tweed. Let me try and hold it really close. There we go. So there's fluorescent yellow spots for the tweed. And that darkness kind of makes it not as vibrantly turquoise as it really is, but that just kind of shows you the tweed part. And it's fuzzy because it's got Angora in it. So one thing that's fun about what was funny about this was John and I took a road trip to Fargo 2 weekends ago. And we went up there because it's their gay pride up there, and John used to work for a company that he volunteers for still.
And they have a booth there every year.
They have a booth there every year. So we went up there and worked that booth during the Pride Parade. But while we were in the car, I was knitting these. And I did something that I've never done before. and I think it was because of the DPNs. I picked up my DPNs, picked up the project, started knitting, but went the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
It felt weird.
Oh, that's right. With your with your kind of weird. Your weird note.
But I was like, and then I realized what I had done and stopped and went back the other way. So what happened was
because I've done that with circular needles before, but with hats. So when it's a tube.
Oh, so as you can see on these socks, it's just a rolled down top. I mean, it's just stockinette stockinette at the top. But on this one, I accidentally did this row in the middle, and it made a purl stitch. And if you can see, where is it? I think it must be right there. It's now that it's washed, it's not as visible, but right here was the stitch where I started and went back the other direction. So it doesn't bother me. It's just kind of a funny little, I wonder if there are patterns that do that on purpose. Just created a little ridge at the top of the sock, but they're just kind of funny. But I love doing the heel flap and gusset. That was really fun. And I really like this yarn. Something I wanted to talk about was, well, first of all, the yarn is Kenzie Yarn by Haiku is I think the manufacturer, and the colorway is Hokitika. Hokitika, I always pause when I say that. And we had talked last time about, what is that? What is Hokitika? And several people wrote in. Belinda commented and said it's a town in New Zealand, actually a town in the South Island on the wild west coast. I wonder what that means. Good attempt at pronouncing, but I guess people call it Hoki. It's a great place for New Zealand whitebait, which I assume is a type of fish. And then she said she was there 2 years ago for a greenstone carving workshop, which I don't know what that is either, but very cool. Natalie Russell also commented and said that she thought it was funny to hear her country mentioned, which I get that. I have that. I understand that, because it's like when I'm watching some other YouTuber and they're talking about Minnesota or whatever. It's like, oh my god, Minnesota. She also mentions that it's on the west coast of the South Island. The color was mostly likely named after the river, the Hokitika River. And then
I wonder if it's that color.
with yellow tweed spots in it. And then Pakasha Younger wrote that it's... Oh, Kenzie yarn is usually named using Maori words and other...
Maori.
No, it's pronounced Maori.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I watched this whole... There was a big...
I could have sworn it was Maori.
There's a big linguistics podcast that I watched, or some podcast I watched, and they made a big deal about the fact that it's pronounced Maori.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm fine with people correcting me, but I...
No.
I specifically...
You looked it up? Or you found it out?
Well, I remember that from a previous conversation. Right. So... and then she says, Kenzie yarn is usually named using Maori words and other Kiwiana. Oh, Kiwiana. So remember we were trying to figure out if it was like, what do you call this? New Zealandic yarn?
Oh, Kiwi.
Kiwiana.
Huh. Because, yeah.
Yeah. And he or she, I don't know, Pakasha, he or she said, isn't it awesome to work with? And yes, it's not sock yarn. It made a very dense fabric, very heavy socks, but I don't know if this is true. It says gauge or weight worsted on the website, but I knitted it with size 1 needles, which is like, oh crap, I forget what that is, 2.5 millimeter or something like that. It's 50 grams for 160 yards. So it's not sock yarn, but I love the way they turned out. And the thing is about this yarn is it's, well, let me read this. It's 50% wool, 25% nylon, 10% Angora, 10% alpaca, and 5% silk. So it's a really awesome blend. It's fuzzy because of the Angora. It's kind of shiny and sturdy because of the silk, and it's just a really neat combo, and they've got 1 billion colorways. So I just wanted to do it with this yarn to see if if I wanted to do other socks with it. So even though it's not.
And
sock
did you make my toe out of that?
Yes.
That's how we found out about it.
Yes, I wanted to find wild colored yarn for the heels and toes in the last socks I knit you.
Yep.
So Rose City Rollers pattern by Mara Catherine Briner. And I will do this pattern again for sure. So, what have you got for us?
I have a finished object.
Yay!
It was finished today. Even better. So what it is I don't know. I drink tea, and I have a teapot at work. Let's see, I drink tea. And I have a teapot at work, and I love it. But whenever I pour, like, tea kind of drips everywhere. So I wanted a little cozy doily for it, and so I found a pattern. And it is on my phone. I have to look it up real quick. Well, it's called.
I can put it in later. I can put the
it's
details
called
on
Crazy
the screen.
Eights, and it's just a circular dishcloth.
Yeah, it actually refers to it as a dishcloth. I think on the pattern.
But it's I forget that it's like dishy yarn or something like that. Super fun to make, really easy, and yeah, you just basically knit and turn the whole time, and it was really fun, really fast. I said I
really like the color you
this
picked.
morning. The colorway is cabin, so like this morning I had about 3, because it's 8 wedges basically. I had 3 wedges done, and I did the rest this morning. So
I have a question for people out there. So this is cotton yarn, is that right, or is it a blend?
It's cotton yarn.
Okay. So do people make... I know that sometimes women... Or people will make garments for women, like in warm climates. They'll knit things out of cotton, or a cotton blend, like with cotton and wool or something like that. I'm curious if people make any garments like sweaters or anything out of cotton.
Well, for babies, for children's stuff, you do cotton because it's softer. Well, it's softer. So with like children's or infant skin, you do it. Easy to wash, and it was fun. I mean, I don't think I've actually knit a whole thing in cotton before because it's so. I was using double pointed wooden 7.5 needles, and so cotton's a little more slippery than wool. So there was a little bit of that going on, but it was really fun. And it's funny because what the pattern said is...
So let's pause here for a minute.
Oh, and we're back.
It's easier for me to edit if we make a clean cut. Okay. All right.
So what was fun about this is... So I've never knit a circular thing before, and so I had no idea how it would work. And so... And I'm one of those people, like, when I read a pattern, I try to figure it out and, like, really understand it. And I had no idea how this would work. And so I just sort of... And everyone said it was an easy pattern, so I sort of trusted the pattern and did it. And it worked out just really well. And I like doing that, where it's sort of like, trying something new, a little scary. But yeah, it was really, really fun and really fast and really easy. And I'll make some more of these. I've got, like, a whole bunch of this yarn, so...
Well, I might like to knit that pattern. I've got a bunch of cotton yarn that I bought to make dishcloths out of. I didn't quite understand the appeal of cotton dishcloths, but Sonia gave us one for our housewarming, and Sonia's my friend that was on a previous episode that I work with, and so she had made us one, and she makes them a lot, and she whips them out in an evening when she's like, oh, I don't want to think about knitting today. Right. I just want to do a quick one. But I really like using them around the house. Yeah.
And this one you have to pay a little more attention to because you have to, it's not just a straight pattern. You don't just knit. You have to sort of pay attention and count. And I had to use tape on that little highlighter tape on the pattern so I wouldn't forget which row I was on. But this took me maybe 3 hours.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was really fun, and I have a finished object.
Yay!
And I'm going to bring it to work and put my teapot on it, which I'm very excited.
You can be all like, I made this.
I will, because there is a knitting group at my work.
Oh, that's right.
So.
All right, so something I want to jump to real quick is a couple thank yous. Baba Yaya is that's her name on Ravelry, and I can't remember if she has a podcast or not. I will put the information in on the screen. But she gifted us and I talked to her a little bit on Ravelry, on the messaging thing on Ravelry, and she, after I had talked about teddy bears and toys and things like that, she had gifted us her pattern. And what I didn't realize, I thought it was a toy pattern, and it is, but what I didn't realize is it's a cat toy.
Oh no.
Yeah. So you stuff it with fiberfill, and then you store it in a bag with catnip, and then you take it out,
and it'll be under the
it'll be under the couch in 5 seconds.
How big is it?
Like that big, and
so it's like basically a little. Oh, that's super.
It's like
fun.
a little cat toy. It's a little mouse. Did I say it was a mouse?
No.
Okay, that's kind of a key part of the story. Ulysses the Mouse is the name of it. Is Ulysses a mouse character that I don't know about? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. But anyway, Ulysses the Mouse is the name of the pattern. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to stuff it with catnip. And she's like, well, actually, you should stuff it with fiberfill and then store it in a bag with catnip.
Oh my god, that's super fun.
Yeah. So I'm going to make some of those for our monsters.
Speaking of, do you want to...
That's the next one.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So the next thank you is from David Dog Dare podcast. He has a very, very fun podcast. I'll put the information in. The thing I like about his podcast is that it's knitting, but it's also other stuff. You know, like he did a make along where people made. I don't know why I'm petting myself. He made a. What is it called? Weaving. Is that what it's? Why am I blanking on this? It's like with a loom or whatever. Is that weaving?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound right all of a sudden. But anyway, he did a whole make along around.
What's a make along?
Instead of a knit along, you can do crochet, you can do knit, you can do cross stitch. It's like around a theme. So he did it around Bates Motel because he really, really likes that show.
Yeah.
So he did a make. So remember I was talking about how on the group you submit. You can submit anything that you made yourself. So it's a make along.
But it was a themed make along.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he anyway, that's David. He I have not been watching podcasts at all lately, so I think I've got a couple of his that I need to catch up on. There's not been a lot of time where I've been here by myself in the last couple weeks for some reason. So
right.
I hadn't been watching my podcasts, my stories. So anyway, David, he had, when we first started podcasting, he had messaged me and said, what's your address? I'd like to send you something. And I assumed it was, I didn't know what it was. I didn't quite understand this whole podcasting thing and whatever. And I was like, oh, that's very nice. And then it came in the mail. And it was from Amazon, and it was addressed to Scott and John, which we wouldn't do that if we were picking address, or buying something off of Amazon ourselves. Yeah. So open the package.
But of course, like, we order enough from Amazon that, like, Lord knows we could have ordered something and forgotten about it. So we get packages like, what did we order? It's like Christmas.
Right. So it comes in the mail, and I open it, and it has a note from David inside, and it is this. It's hilarious. It's it's an automatic laser pointer. Uh-oh.
You can't really see it.
Yeah, so I don't want to blind everybody on the podcast, but it's a automated line. Why no, it won't go through the internet and burn people's eyes.
Here, why don't you put it on the... See if...
you can see it's a red laser pointer.
Oh, there you go.
Automatic thing. I know. And I'm going to insert some video. Linus is just looking at us like, dude, I ain't got the time for this right now. But anyway, it randomly shoots the laser pointer around, and the cats go crazy for it. So it's kind of really nice, because I used to like to play with the laser pointer with them, but I would be like, oh,
it gets bored. It's
more boring.
More exciting for them than it is for you.
Yeah. So I'm going to insert some video, but this thing is hilarious. If you have a cat. Yeah, and
they're big fans. I hope, it's one of those things, like, I hope they're big fans, and it's not like, they compulsively have to chase it, and it's, like, terrible for them.
Well, some people are like, well, you have to, like, when you play with a laser pointer, you need to turn it off sometimes when they put their paws on it, so they think they caught it.
Aww.
It's like,
We don't care.
I'm not sure about how deep into your cat's psyche you need to go, but anyway, they really, really love it. So
they really love it. It's hilarious, and
I just thought that was so nice that he doesn't know us, and he just sent us this gift, and it was very, very
I mean,
nice.
it was for our cats.
Well, true.
I mean, you know.
But it's ultimately for us, because now we don't have to hold the laser pointer and
right. No, it was
entertain them.
Super awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And it's, yeah.
And if I didn't say this for Baba Yaya, and I apologize, I forgot to look up what her real name is, but she's Baba Yaya, and thank you so much for that pattern as well. I can't wait to make one of those.
Yeah.
All right.
We are those crazy people.
There's another thank you coming up, but it has to do with one of my projects, so that's why I'm not mentioning it here. So let's go ahead and talk about our next pattern. Our next projects. I'm going to talk now about the Byatt shawl that I've been working on. This is for my friend who's ill, and let me just hold that. For the first time ever, I'm not in the middle of a row, so I can actually hold the whole thing up and show it. I'm loving knitting this pattern. It came out in 2015. Wait, let me figure out what this is doing here. So I've been knitting on it for quite a long time. I'm not the fastest knitter, and I keep getting distracted by other things I want to work on. Can you hold this for me, this side?
Shit. Pardon me. Okay.
So, pull it that way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to not have it fall off the needles.
It's not going to fall off the needles.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Stretch it out. There we go. So, this is the shawl. And it's... So you can see there's the garter section down here, and then there's a grid section that's here. I'm about 2/3 done with the grid section. And then at the top, when I'm done with the grid section, there's a lace section, which I've never done lace before, so I'm excited to do that. But, so I'm loving knitting this. It takes me, I can do, although now that it's getting longer, I'm having more difficulty, but I can do about one of these sections of grid sections, so from gold line to gold line in about an evening. So I've got... Let's see, I've got to do 16 total, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've done 10, so I've got 6 more to go. And then I'll do the lace pattern. And what was I going to say? Oh, the yarn is... I've got my notes here. The yarn is the reddish yarn is Manos del Uruguay yarn that we bought in Montevideo, Uruguay, and it's their silk blend yarn, and it's in the autumn colorway, and I think I've said this before, and then the gold for the grid pattern. Oh, and the lace pattern that goes on top is going to be in just the gold, and that is liquid gold Madeline Tosh sock. So it's Carrie Westerman is the designer of the pattern, but really, really, really having fun.
Super pretty.
All right. So anyway, that's that. So what about you? What's your next? What
All
else
right.
are you working on?
So the sweater continues. I think I measured it the other day, like how far I am. Ta-da!
Yay!
It looks like culottes. But so I'm about halfway done with the body part. So
that's gonna be so cool.
I know. I'm very excited. I don't even want to know if. So it's like 224 stitches in the round. At some point I need to count my stitches and see where I am. I'm terrified. I'm pretty sure I've added and dropped and added and dropped and added and dropped. But you know what? That is for some other time to worry about.
Well, and you probably want to do that not right before you have to switch and do something.
Yeah. Remember when I did the
demonstration.
There's the demonstration. There's a little bit of
So somebody said on here, and I wrote this down. Somebody said, Donna Allen wrote on one of our episodes, when I make a mistake in my knitting, it is known as a signature. So that's a signature.
Well, I heard a goofy little thing at some knitting circle thing I went to, and they're like, if you ever make a perfect sweater, God takes it away, so you have to make mistakes. It's stuff like very, very Darlene. It probably sounds better in Gaelic than it does in English. but I heard about that once. So the sweater is coming along, and
but what I was gonna say is, whatever, like if you need to add or drop stitches, or add or reduce stitches, I can help you with the typical way that you do that.
Yep. Yeah. So and then this is I think last time I was talking about, and this is the sleeve. It's not very far along, but see, look.
Yay.
So that's coming along, and I think I'm using double pointed. Not double pointed. I'm using
9-inch circulars.
9-inch circulars, which I know.
Not everybody loves those. I love 9-inch circulars.
I love them and I don't love them, but I love them more than double pointed needles.
Well, have you tried Magic Loop?
Nope.
Are you interested in trying that?
Maybe for the other sleeve.
Okay.
Might as well have all kinds of gauge and tightness.
Yeah. Yeah, just give it a...
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be tough to transfer those to Magic Loop, and I could do it for you if you wanted to give it a try.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things
It's different than that in that you've got the bigger needles.
Because the thing that I struggle with this one is, like, I feel like I can't hold on to the whole needle, and so I'm like knitting...
Dainty.
I know, I feel like I'm knitting with my fingertips. And... which is fine, it's just a little odd. Again,
is it tiring?
No, it's just odd. Like, it feels very tentative, for lack of a better word.
Do you Portuguese knit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that's making...
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe. But
I just mean in combination with the 9-inch.
Right. So, I mean, it's fine, it's coming along.
Cool.
But good practice for my handwear. So, but yeah, so that is going right along, and
remind me what's the name of the pattern and all that. I mean, we'll put it on the screen probably, but
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's on my queue, Ravelry queue.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and the last pattern I have. Oh, this is the other thank you. So I got an email and it was like, so-and-so's bought you a pattern. And I was like, what? And so I went on and Leslie from the Knit Girls, who is You Don't Call Me Les on Ravelry, bought me a pattern. Bought me a pattern. And I think I had it, I think on Ravelry there's a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've gone back in there, I can't find the wish list functionality, but whatever. I think she found it on my wish list and bought it, but it's the Pixel Rise socks from Junkyard Designs, and I'll put the information in on the screen. But it was just so nice, and so I went on, and I had not seen her podcast before, but she and her friend, and I can't remember her friend's name, have a podcast. And the funniest thing is, I went on and started watching it, and I knew that she had a lot of episodes, but I couldn't. Sometimes YouTube is not laid out in my mind, what would be a logical layout. So I go in and I'm watching what I think is one of her most recent episodes, and it's like a 40-minute podcast, but it's in 4 10-minute chunks. And I'm watching, and and she kept having to stop it, and whatever, and it was I really like their episode. I mean, I like the way they interact, and they're very adventurous knitters and all that. And then I started noticing that, like, on the side there was like episode 392 or so, and I was like, what's going on? When I looked at the episode I was watching, it was from 2010, which I didn't even know that, like, I mean, I guess YouTube was around then. I know YouTube's been around for a long... I mean, I can't imagine trying to do a knitting podcast in 2010, and I believe that back then there was like a limitation for how long YouTube videos could be, and that might have been why she broke it up into chunks. But it was so funny. So then I went and watched their most, I keep saying her, but it's their most recent episode. And it was funny because in the first episode I watched, her, not Leslie, but her friend was not married, but then in the most recent episode she said referred something about the kids or something like that. So 7-year difference.
Right.
So Yeah, really, really fun podcast. And like I said, really... and they spin, which I don't really have any interest in doing myself, but
I've been vaguely interested in seeing how that works. I think that'd be, create your own yarn.
Yeah. So, anyway, I can't thank Leslie enough, especially because as soon as I saw that pattern, I've got the stuff over here. As soon as I saw that pattern, oh crap, and I'm going to show this. It's going to be a gift for a friend.
Steve's not going to watch our podcast.
He has, though.
Really?
Yeah, so Steve Dolphin watching, stop watching.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, put your head down.
Well, like this way, if you're spoiled, Steve Doll, it's your own darn fault.
And I don't want him to be spoiled, because I want him to see them for the first time when I give them to him. Anyway, so, alright, this is another meandering story, but we'll get through it, I promise. So, we had a birthday party for Steve Doll at our house. And Steve, I don't know if I've talked about Steve before, we call him by his full name.
Just because.
Because I do that with some people. And he's probably one of my closest friends. He's my closest local friend. I can't say he's my best friend because Margaret is my best friend, and Margaret would get really mad. I'm just kidding. They don't really care. We're old people now, so it doesn't matter. But Steve officiated our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very close. And we had hosted a birthday party at our house. And I might have had a cocktail or two. And I was like, my socks don't fit. Steve, do you want them? And so he was very nice, and he's like, oh, sure. I mean, I know he I know he would like knitted socks, but it was like, I didn't put any thought into them, or whatever. And he tried them on, because his foot is a little bit smaller than mine. And so he put it on, and it fit and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I got finished. I'll give you my socks. And then when I woke up the next day and, was no longer a little tipsy, I first of all realized that once I washed these, they were going to get a little bit bigger, and then I realized I wanted to actually knit him socks that were for him, with him in mind. And so I texted him, and I'm like, is it okay if I just make you your own and not just give you my hand-me-down socks? And like I said, what are you doing?
It's the yarn is a little hanky.
Okay, hanky. Is that the technical term?
Yes.
So these are, am not giving these to Steve. Instead, I'm making the socks that Leslie gifted me the pattern on, the Pixel Rise socks. I don't remember, I heard about these socks on a podcast, and I can't remember if it was the Bakery Bears or the Sockmatician or the Grocery Girls or somebody. And if you are somebody who is a podcaster and you mentioned these socks, I guess it doesn't really matter. If you want credit for telling me about these, let me know. But ultimately, it's a super cool. They're striped, and I think the point of the pattern. Where does it say here? Well, there was something in the description. Oh, here it is. Pixel Rise socks for your scraps. Kemper Ray is the name of the designer, but it's under Junkyard Designs or something. Junkyard Designs, and it's stripes, but in between each stripe, there's a little color work. Let me show you the pattern. And so it makes it kind of pixely.
Should you actually show the pattern?
Oh, no, I shouldn't do that. Thank you for stopping me. There's a little pixel. I was about to show the pattern. There you go. It is a purchase pattern. So anyway, it's a little pixely in between each stripe. And so what I decided to do, Steve, keep not looking, is I went to Stephen B. and I bought different colors.
You can tell them about your cool cast on.
Yeah, I am going to tell
awesome.
them about that.
Super cool.
And I bought rainbow colors. So I got red, orange, yellow, and then green, blue, and purple.
But no indigo. Poor indigo.
I know, poor indigo. Nobody loves indigo. But the yarn is Spud and Chloe, which is a line of Blue Sky Fibers yarn. The colors are numbers, so I'm not going to go through those because it's not particularly interesting. The yarn is made in Peru. And this is their fine sock. It's 80% wool and 20% silk.
The yarn is made in Peru, I thought, or the wool's from Peru.
Well, it says made in Peru because they're a local company.
Yeah.
I think the yarn is. I think maybe the wool is.
The wool's Peruvian and they spin and dye it?
They probably dye it. They probably
Okay.
don't spin it. If it says made in Peru, I'm assuming it's spun and
Right.
then dyed
Okay.
here locally. I don't know, to be honest. This is it's 65 grams, and it's 248 yards or 227 meters. But I love this yarn. Feel it. Have you felt it yet?
Yeah.
I love having silk in yarn. There's just something about it that I really, really like. So it just the way that it feels, and it's kind of shiny, and it's not so shiny that it looks crazy, but and the colors are just beautiful. So I started the pattern, and the pattern starts off with a Turkish cast on. And I had never done that. And it's a toe up sock. And so I started with this toe up.
I know, it always makes you laugh when you say that.
This sock is toe up. And it starts with a Turkish cast on. I didn't know what that meant. And so I went and watched a YouTube video. I'm going to put the information about the YouTube video I watched. It was an excellent video. Excellent video. And it was the first one that came up when I searched on YouTube. But basically, you take your needles, you put a slip knot on one, and you hold them together. You hold your needles together like this, and then you wind the yarn around both of them, and then you knit. You take one needle out, and you knit the stitches. Then they're on that needle. Then you take the other needle and you knit, like in the magic loop, but it's like upside down from magic loop. You're taking the bottom needle or the front needle, and you're knitting the loops on the back. I'm not describing it very well. This is not a demonstration video, obviously. But what it does is it starts your knitting, and there's no cast on row.
You should hold that up.
I am going to.
It's super
It's
cool
just
looking.
so weird. So it is the coolest thing ever. Your cast on is technically in the middle of where you started, or the middle of your pattern. So, okay, how am I gonna do this? Wait, I gotta figure out how to do it. Okay, so I gotta block John's face so it doesn't focus on you. So
Why don't I'll go like radian.
no, it's okay.
You got it? Okay.
It's not focusing.
There it is.
Yeah. So that's where I shouldn't have moved my hand. That's where I cast on. Is that row in the very middle. And it looks just like, it just looks like total knit stitch. So I'm so sure that everybody who does toe up socks is like, yeah, Scott, that's like, duh. That's how you do toe up socks. But I had never done toe up socks, and so I just thought that Turkish cast on was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So, so I've decided that for the rest of my life I'm going to have at least one pair of socks on my needles. I know there are people that have I think including the podcast, the Knit Girls podcast, I think the friend whose name I can't remember and I feel so bad. No, I'm not even going to try. She has 15 pairs of socks on needles. So she, I'm always going to have, and so once I finish the ankle socks, I cast these on these sleeve dolly socks. So my goal is to focus on the Byatt shawl, but I'm always going to be needing to knit socks.
Guess what I'm doing?
What are you doing?
I'm taking back.
I'm so proud of you.
Because somehow I started purling.
Oh. That'll happen.
Well, I wasn't even purling because I was knitting on the front side of the work, which is really goofy.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
And it's time for the... well, there's not really one, but I like to talk about Betty Ann. So Betty Ann is my mom, for those of you that don't know. And she is the best mom ever, but I don't like to tell her that. She has been retired now for a little bit, 6 weeks or so, maybe not that long, so she's really enjoying that. She's she's working towards opening her Etsy shop to do some yarn dyeing and stuff probably. So she's excited about that. And I don't think I told you this, but she told me her boyfriend David is part of the Patriot Guard Riders. And that's the, for those of you who don't know, that's the, it says their mission is to attend the funeral services of fallen American heroes as invited guests of the family. And the basic objectives are to show respect for the fallen heroes, their families, and the communities, and to shield the mourning family and their friends from interruptions created by any protesters or group of protesters. So through legal and nonviolent means. And so they do really. He has a motorcycle, and I think it's all motorcycle people, motorcycle riders. But he just made captain. In that, which is a really big deal because you have to go through all this training, and you have to. But that means you get to lead the rides for a particular person, and so it's military, police, firemen, things like that. So, so that was kind of a big deal. Yeah. Very cool. And then she's made 2 pairs of socks now. She made a pair of socks for herself, and then she made a pair of socks for her friend Trish. And she's like, oh my god, they're awful. They're, holes all in them, blah, blah, blah. And like, they're perfectly fine. And then she tells me today, she says, well, I found the first ones I made for myself, and they don't look too bad. They'll be fun to wear. And I'm just like...
Well, I mean, so I always have that when I'm knitting something, I'm like, it's the worst thing ever. And then, like, I thought about this little thing. I'm like, yes, is it, when you're knitting it, you're so close to it, and then you are done with it, and you can't even see all the goofs.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hard thing to let go of, I think, sometimes, because you see your mistakes.
I just don't want her to, like, stop.
No,
and she's not gonna do that.
She's not gonna do that. I think it just takes a couple of complete, the first scarf I made. Good lord.
Yeah.
That thing was janky.
I mean, I don't know. I remember my first scarf.
Yeah, it was janky as hell, but then you're done. And it's like a piece of fabric, and
yeah,
it looks great, and it didn't unknit itself, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true because when I did the Doctor Who socks for my friend Charles, I struggled with picking up the stitches for the afterthought heel, and so there was a little bit of yarn capturing and that I had to do, and so I was like, oh my god, Charles, if these come undone, let me know and I'll fix them. But yeah, so I need to find out what she's working on. I don't know what she's working on right now, but we'll find out. But we're gonna see her soon probably in about 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks at the retreat. The other couple things I want to talk. Sorry, let me try that again. There's a couple other things I want to talk about. So that I acquired. I picked up. There's a new yarn store in Minneapolis. It's called the Knit and Bolt. I think it's called. It's in Northeast Minneapolis. I will. If I'm wrong, I'll put the name in, but it's in Northeast Minneapolis, and a friend of mine told me about it at work, and we went there, Sonia and I went there over lunch, and it's a really cute store. They have lots of fabric for sewing stuff, and then they have a lot of knitting stuff. So I picked up a couple skeins.
Go ahead. I have a reminder.
Okay.
Finish that.
A couple skeins of Regia yarn. So this is the stuff that when you knit it, if you're knitting the right, I think if you have to be knitting the right gauge, it creates a patterned sock. And so I picked up a couple skeins there, and just for more sock yarn. So I'm excited to play with that. But yeah, it's a cute store. Anybody in the Twin Cities that is looking for new places to go, you should definitely try it out. What were you going to say?
The other store we went to in Fargo was in Fargo's Moorhead, Prairie Fiber Arts.
So Fargo, Moorhead are Twin Cities, if you want to call them that. Moorhead is in Minnesota on the Minnesota side of the river, and Fargo's on the North Dakota side of the river. And we went to what was it called?
Prairie Fiber Arch, I think.
I think it was Prairie Fiber Arts, and
we'll put it up. It was so nice.
They had a really neat selection.
Yeah.
But I was knitting these socks with my DPNs, and I had lost one of them. I dropped it. It was under the floor mat of the car. So I had gone down to 4 for part of the pattern and then needed to go back to 5 needles. And I had lost one of them, so I stopped in there and we bought...
Super cute. Needles. Lots of really great yarn, and some of it was from... I think they had some local yarn up there. Mm-hmm. And it was just really... I don't know.
It looks like they have lots of class. They have a nice space for classes and stuff.
Yeah, and we couldn't stay very long because we were trying to get back, and then we had flat tires. But that's another story. But yeah, it was really, really nice. And if if you're in the Fargo Moorhead area and you want to go to a yarn store, it was super, super nice. The people there were really lovely, and yeah.
So another thing that we acquired recently is super fun. This was a find that John had, and I will put video over the top of this or pictures.
And we should also, I can't remember. So there is this little. So our neighborhood, which we love, these 2 stores just opened up.
Are they connected? Do you know? Are they the same people?
I don't think they are. Okay. So one is this store where their whole thing is about doing classes for people who want to learn craft, basically.
Did I tell you that John Medeiros and I are going to do...
Yeah. So we're
going to do a pottery class.
Yeah, so they have pottery classes. They've actually had knitting classes there. But, so that's really great. It's called Make Something, I think. I can't remember what it is. But next door, there's this really lovely little store, and it's all, like, Minnesota-y themed stuff, but it's like all local stuff. And they had this thing. I just went in there one day because they were open on the way back from the bus.
If you see us looking over to the side, it's because it's right there.
Right.
We're gonna put pictures in.
And they have these sort of ladders, and I was like, well, that's interesting. What would you use that for? They look cool. And they were using them to hang blankets. So you put all your blankets on the ladder, and I'm like, holy crap, we can do that. We can put hooks on it. We can put our project bags on them. So, because I don't know if people are like us, but our project bag collection is a disaster. And whenever we have people over, we gather them all up and throw them in the closet, and then we lose stuff, and it's just, So anyway, we got this ladder, and maybe we'll see video at this point, I don't know.
Maybe I'm going to put it over top.
And we put some hooks on it, and on the side and behind the rungs, and we're now hanging our project bags on it. So you can, I don't know, I'm very proud of us about that. I think it's super fun. It's a way to, I guess, because sometimes I have where's the project bag? And it's a good place to put it. And it's just fun. It's nice to have kind of, and also,
well, it's always easier to keep your house tidy when there's a spot or a place for everything and everything in its place. And we didn't really have a place for
we would just we'd put all our bags, they're usually in the basement, or put them on the table, and then people would come over and we just throw it in the closet.
Yeah.
And yeah. So very exciting about that. And what's kind of fun is now we need more project bags because we have more hooks and we have project bags. So that's too bad. So I've decided what I'm going to do is do pre-project bags because we have all this yarn and it's just in a big box, and I kind of know what I want to do with it, but it's just sort of hanging out in a box somewhere. I sort of forget about it. So I'm going to get the yarn and put it in a bag with the pattern, and that way when I want to work on it, it's right there to go. As opposed to, I like all these, this hat I want to do and all this stuff that I don't remember.
Well, what I discovered is I've got 2 project bags that are hung up there that don't have projects in them. They have stuff left over from the previous project I did in them.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people do that. like I need to get the yarn and the bits and pieces and stuff that, like the place holders and all that kind of stuff, stitch markers and stuff that kind of fell to the bottom. I need to clean it out and put because my current sock bag is a bag from Stephen B. This is my current project bag that I'm using.
Which works perfectly well. But
it works perfectly well, but I've got 2 beautiful bags that I got. One from Mrs. Brown's bag. And
right. So yeah, it's just a way to feed our project bag problem.
Yes. Speaking of project bag problem, something else that we got. So there's a chain of stores here in Minnesota. I don't know if the stores are outside of Minnesota.
Oh, Patina?
Patina. It's called Patina, and it's a gift shop. But they just have really awesome, fun stuff. It's like a Pier 1, but like...
It's a good place to go Christmas shopping.
With funny stuff, and
right.
They don't have any furniture. But anyway, it's just kind of... They've got lots of candles and glasses with funny writing on them and stuff like that. Well, I decided I needed a new Notions pouch to keep all my scissors and tape measures and all that stuff together, so... I got my Embrace Your Inner Unicorn bag with a nice little tassel on it. So it's pretty hilarious. So I decided it was flamboyant enough that I had to get it and put my Notion stuff in it. Then what was the other thing? I can't remember. Oh, the other thing. This is the other thing I got. I got this book, Knitting in Plain English by Maggie Rigetti. So it was published in 2007, but it was recommended by someone who many episodes ago, we've only done 7, in a previous episode, I had gotten confused about the term knitting evenly, or I think I was knitting evenly, and it was when I was working on my sweater, and come to find out that knitting evenly means continue in pattern but don't do any increases or decreases, and I didn't know that, so I did increases and decreases. This was for a raglan increase on a sweater, and I just kept doing it all the way down to the whatever. So this book, I haven't really looked at it that much, but it's got basically that kind of stuff. Like, it's a knitting instruction booklet, and it's like things like gauge can get you, don't get all balled up in yarn, some pointed remarks about knitting needles, duplicating and grafting, make sure your work measures up, working with more than one color. But at the end, there's is it the glossary? Yeah, there's a glossary, so it's like like abbreviations, but also as established, or the term as if to knit, as if to purl, blind stockinette stitch increase, just a glossary, and that's where they have the even thing, where it says... a term that means without increasing or decreasing. Work even means to work on the same number of stitches. So, yeah. So I just wanted it. Somebody had recommended this book. I just went on Amazon and bought it. So, a couple other things from previous discussions. I thought it'd be fun to talk about the feedback. What?
The baking segment.
Oh, the baking segment. We got to talk about the baking segment. So, previous discussions that we've had on our podcast, I wanted to circle back to them, especially because people have commented on the YouTube channel, and I didn't want to, or on the episodes, and I didn't want to act as though I didn't see that. So, we got good feedback on the Portuguese knitting demo, which is kind of fun. But one of the things that we talked about was a baking segment, and people are like, yeah, you should do a baking segment. And so at the end of this podcast, I'm going to put in the baking segment.
Gee whiz.
Here's the problem with the baking segment. I forgot to film half the process. So
well, that's not exactly what happened. You were actually pretty good at filming stuff.
That is exactly what happened. Oh, no, I guess you're right.
We were pretty good about filming the process. So, Scott was making, it was a birthday for our friend Steve. So we were making the birthday cake for our friend Steve. And so he was being pretty good about filming, and then I would go over and film him, putting stuff in the bowl and blending, and it was going to be pretty good. And then we made the cake, and then forgot to take any pictures of the finished cake.
Well, I didn't show any of the making of the frosting.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to edit and put in what I did just to get feedback, and just to have the practice of, because it's totally different than doing this podcast. I was like thinking, it's totally different because it's like, I think I'm going to have to set up something where I can hang my iPhone from the ceiling so that it can be above what I'm doing, or I just have to do it with John standing there the whole time filming. So, so that'll be at the end of the...
It was a really good cake. It was really pretty.
It was really good, and we have no pictures of the finished object.
Right.
We have making the batter and putting it in the oven, and that's
right. And then we sort of lost control.
We don't even have any pictures of the candles and Steve blowing them out. I mean, what's wrong with us?
Well, we just forgot.
Yeah. So, let me see here. People have been asking, what happened to my sweater. That's going to come back. I just want to get my
the shawl is kind of the first priority.
Yeah. So, there was somebody... I don't know why I'm bringing this up. It's... John... Somebody actually got one of John's jokes.
Which one?
References. The Professor SF said, "Yay, finishing the hat. John is a Sondheim fan."
Yes. Yay.
The other thing is, Chile Knits said that she just found out about our podcast and that she'll mention us on our next podcast in English, which is fun that she does it in Spanish and English, and she lives in Chile, and that was where we spent a lot of our honeymoon, was in Chile, sailing down the coast of Chile on a cruise.
Right. We want to go back real bad.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I haven't watched it yet. I'm excited to watch it. And then Kimmy Songbird commented, and she, when I started the podcast, I didn't have a beard, and it was because I was about to turn 40, and I was having a I guess that would be a midlife crisis. I was having a midlife crisis and wanted to look young, so I shaved my beard off. But she said that she loved the beard, and she loved John's beard too, although you don't have one anymore.
Mine is gone for a little bit.
She said that they were having the Pride Parade today in Vancouver, Canada, and you couldn't... Oh, and she couldn't go, so she found our podcast and started watching in honor of today.
Aww.
So that was very nice. And then one of the conversations we've had is problems with the ball winder, and the problem where we put the skein on the Swift and then it got all
janky.
Yeah. So one of the things I did do, because these three are obviously caked up from the hanks that I got from Spud and Chloe, and I just haven't caked these up yet because I haven't gotten to those colors. But one thing I saw the grocery girls do, and I don't know, it seems to have made a difference with these because I didn't have any problems with these.
Mm-hmm.
That is, they undid the hank,
mm-hmm.
and actually I'll do it now. They undid the hank, and then they took it apart, and then they I don't know if they banged it on the thing, but they shook it out so that
So anything that be crossed over?
Well, not so much that, but it's they're not stuck together anymore, and they spread apart more. So if something, if you're unwinding it onto the ball winder and there's a thread underneath, it doesn't yank as much, because I think that was the part of the problem we were
mm-hmm. having.
So I did that with those, and that seemed to work really well.
Oh, nice.
But something Jennifer Marco wrote in and said is, the trick to successful ball winding is to make sure that all of the yarn on the skein is going in the right direction. You can tell by looking at the skein at all of the positions where it is tied. Sometimes the strand will be going backwards. You will know what I mean when you look at the skein. And unfortunately, I don't know what she means because I haven't seen that yet. So,
right.
I'll keep my eye peeled for that. But
we'll go look at Next time, yeah.
Yeah, next time I do one of these skeins. So, okay. I'm not a pro at putting these skeins back together, but oh well. Good, close enough. Couple of hints I thought of as I... Oh, sorry, this is D. Malone. Wrote, couple of hints I thought of as I watched. I also use tape on my chart. So that's that highlighter tape on a chart. And D. Malone said, I've learned to put it above my current row instead of under the current row, which I think in previous podcasts I didn't know. I was putting it under the current row, and it does help to put it above the current row. Like this, instead of under the current row. Because I started off and was putting it at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
And then this allows me to see the chart of the knitting I've already completed. Sometimes I can catch mistakes before I get too far off that way. And I think part of the reason why I was doing it below is because I used to, when I was young, I used to cross stitch. My mom taught me to cross stitch, and I used one of those magnet boards and would use a magnet to keep my place, and I would always do it under where we were at. But and then, like I said, Carol Economides. Really sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. It looks like Economides or Economides. Wrote in and said, a big hi from sunny Cyprus. That's so awesome. Like, Cyprus is one of those places like that seems so exotic to me. And so yeah, so I just wanted to just bring some of those conversations back. So I think that's all we've got.
Cool.
So thank you everybody who watches. It's really fun, and thank you everybody who comments. I really like to read the comments, and I'm slow to respond sometimes, and I do it in chunks. And it's cool that there's so many that I have trouble keeping up with them. But yeah, I want to do more of this, bringing conversations back and stuff like that at the end of the episodes for people. So thank you so much, and we hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.
Bye.